Welcome to Season 3 of SkillCast, the podcast by the London Organisation of Skills Development. I'm Nur Banu, I'm your host. I'm beyond excited to kick off another season of powerful insights, real conversations, and game-changing skills. This season, we're leveling up, bringing you deeper conversations with experts and visionaries who are redefining success. From mindset shifts to must-have skills, we're unpacking what it really takes to stay ahead in an ever-evolving world. So if you're ready to learn, grow, and be inspired, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome to the podcast. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Great. I'm Patricia Long. I'm an international retreat leader, coach. I have some experience in psychotherapy. I'm also a musician and sound healer.
What were you first?
First, I was a musician.
Okay.
I started singing in church when I was 6 years old. That's why I wanted to go. I knew, God existed, but I also went to sing. I had a wonderful choir director, and I just loved to sing, and that's where I started.
Oh, wow. So do you have any musically talent in your family?
Yes, my dad was a singer, and he used to sing in churches too. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So he inspired you to...
He did. He also took me to concerts. And so when I was really young, he would take me to classical music concerts, and we'd talk about the music. So then after I, was singing for a while, then I started taking beginning piano. And then I had to choose between flute and piano when I got into school, because once I started flute and I had piano, I had my homework. So I chose the flute because I wanted to be a part of an ensemble. I wanted to play in a group.
So then where does sound healing come from? How did you go from... Because people just singing is just a very therapeutic thing, but where did the actual healing element, where did that kick in for you?
Yes. After I'd done music for a while, I started studying with teachers that teach about how to use sound therapeutically and for healing. Mm-hmm. And then I started studying some of those instruments. And the other thing is that I started doing chanting 39 years ago, and chanting is very healing. And there are many, many chants from many different traditions. I think people are more familiar with chanting from Buddhist and Hindu traditions, but there are Native American chants, there are certain American hymns that are like a chant. So I started to do that, and I was still playing the flute, and then I started studying with these sound healing masters and learning more about the power of that.
Yeah, I find sound healing really fascinating because when you use certain words that really vibrate in the universe, like the word Om, for example, when you put it in like a pot of water, you can actually see the energy particles of the water moving. So I've always been quite fascinated about this whole sound healing. So I actually went to see a healer myself a few months ago when I was in India, and I went for chakra healing, and she said after the chakra healing, like a supplement treatment you should do is sound healing. And I was just trying to get my head around, because there's a few different parts to sound healing. There is sound healing when you're using certain paws, certain chins and stuff. Could you expand on that a little bit more? Can you tell me more about it?
Absolutely. I love talking about this. So vibration is the force that creates and sustains all life. Everything that's alive is in movement, in vibration. And now we know what the ancients knew, which is that everything that is vibrating is emitting a sound. The human ear can only hear a limited amount of sounds, and that's good, because if we could hear everything, we wouldn't be able to focus and function as humans. But through technology, they've been able to amplify the sounds that we can't hear. For example, a sound of a rose opening sounds like a distant organ when they amplify that sound. So we are constantly sounding, not just through the words I'm saying, but thought is a vibration, and my body just existing in space has a vibration, even apart from the heartbeat. So working with sound in any way is really working with our life force. And yes, there are many types of sound healing. There is the chanting, there is simply listening to music, there is making our own sound through toning, which isn't just singing a song, just making sounds. And then there's working with instruments and things like healing bowls made of crystal and metal. So there's many, many different forms of sound healing. And there have been studies done about the power of self-created sound, which is actually the most powerful way we can work with it, because when we make our own sound, we're vibrating it in our own body. And if we combine that with an intention or a feeling, it's even more powerful. Like if I'm sounding and I'm feeling joy, it's even more powerful than if I'm just sounding randomly. So there was a study of 2 women that had breast cancer tumors. And they each toned for 2.5 hours a day for 1 month. And they didn't change any of their other treatment regimen for cancer. They had breast cancer tumors. And at the end of the study, they did a scan on each woman. In one woman, the tumor had completely disappeared. And in the other woman, they saw the tumor, so they did surgery and it had completely dried up. So what they did was adding their own sound, and they healed.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So I have actually written a book. It's called Doctor Prescribing Music. It was actually a spin-off on my own.
You've written that? Oh.
So I haven't published it yet. So it was actually it was kind of like an add-on to, it was a supplement to my actual PhD. So my PhD is actually looking at the well-being of people that have lost their vision later in life. And the intervention we're using is music listening. So music listening to help reduce anxiety, depression, and stress. That's just one aspect to it. But I actually ended up using music in my own life. So after the COVID vaccination, I've told this story quite a lot. So after the COVID vaccination, I had a really bad reaction and I ended up with having very chronic back pain. And I was just like, I came to a point, I was like, I've read so much about music, my thesis on music, and I've heard people are healing from music. Let me try this myself. So I would play around with different solfeggio frequencies to figure out which one works for me. So I tried that for about a month, and I actually noticed my back pain, which was probably 10 out of 10, went down to about 7 out of 10, which is so much less. It was much more bearable.
It's very significant.
It's significant. You might think 7. It's still pain.
Oh, no.
Because I still needed rehabilitation. But I'm using, it was like a paracetamol. It was like that painkiller it was that natural painkiller. It was very fascinating. And that's what led me to end up writing a book. So I just compiled different information about music, how music helps with different neurodegenerative diseases, as well as people with cancer, as well as people with learning disabilities, and how music can help enhance whatever it is that they're trying to. I think music is so powerful. There's something very divine about music that people really don't understand. I think there is definitely a reason why we sing in places of worship. Why in every culture, whether you're Christian or Muslim, there is some sort of sound element going on in church. Because is that music? Because there's something that connects straight. The vibration is energy, like you mentioned, is straight to the universe. I think it's something powerful and fascinating. I wish more people knew about this whole sound, music, and the power, the divine nature of it.
Well, it's becoming more trendy now. You'll see a lot of people offering a sound bath, which could be voices combined with any other kind of instruments, but usually it's with crystal and metal bowls. So it's happening more and more.
Yeah. Would you say music therapy, sound therapy is real science, or would you still say it sits in the pseudoscience?
I feel that science is a language we've invented to explain phenomena that are mysterious. Yeah. And so a scholar or a scientist might say it's pseudoscience. But the way I feel about this, it's about experience, not about thinking, not about analysis. But that's my way of talking about it. I'm sure there are scientists that would say it's not officially scientific. But when we're talking about an experience like this, it's real. Your experience, no one can argue because it's in your own being. So that's my answer to it, because that's really how I feel.
Are you familiar with the solfeggio frequencies then?
Yes.
Have you used them in your own life at all?
I've used them some, yeah. And I've mostly used chanting, toning. As I said, just the toning is very interesting. I studied with someone years ago my first teacher of sound healing, and he recommended, as the course was going on, it lasted a few months, that we just sounded a couple times, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day, and then we wrote about what came up. So also you can develop a relationship with the toning. And it can be laughter, it can be noises, it doesn't have to just be notes. And but it really opens up, in my experience, opens up the nervous system, opens up space in the body, opens up well-being as well.
So when you talk about sound healing, do you need to use tools and props? What if someone just wants to use music, sound just casually? Is that possible as well?
Absolutely. You do not need the tools. They can enhance an experience if you want to design one. But just sounding yourself, any sounds you want to make, it doesn't even have to be singing an official song, right? Is absolutely accessible for anyone. And then remembering that thought is also a vibration is another way of working with it. Because if you notice yourself thinking thoughts all the time that aren't serving you, it doesn't mean you go to the other end of the spectrum and you never feel anything negative or frustrating. But if you notice that you can be the author of the thoughts that you spend more time with, then that's also working with sound.
Wow, that's really powerful. Do you think you could give a particular sound that you recommend for a beginner?
Give a sound. Elaborate for me.
Like a sound or a vocal or something that someone can use, that they can use if they're trying to use it within themselves, that they can use as a daily ritual.
Sure. I would recommend, although everyone's body's different and everyone's preferences are different, but I would recommend doing the sound ah, because it's thought to, by some systems, to open the heart center, the heart chakra. It's thought to be the vowel sound that can open the heart chakra. There's different systems where different notes are connected with the chakras, the energy centers, and different syllables. It doesn't mean everyone agrees, but one system that I've studied, says that ah can open the heart. So someone could start with just ah without even singing, and then someone could just improvise on sounds that feel good moving through their body. It's so simple. It doesn't require education or require a formula. And then the person practicing can actually experiment and find what feels good for them. For some people, it might be higher tones, others lower tones.
Is there any particular time of the day that you suggest doing that sound?
I love all these questions. I could talk about this forever. Thank you. I like doing things in the morning because of how fresh my energy is when I first wake up. But again, I think that's really a personal choice about how to do that. When I first started learning to meditate, for example, for some reason at 2:30 in the afternoons when I wanted to meditate, I'll never know why. Some people do it before bed or in the morning, which I sometimes do too. But I think this is really about discovering your own preferences and how your body is responding, and then in turn, how your well-being is responding.
Oh, super interesting. So actually, I meditate as well, but I use music to meditate because I use music as a tool that helps bring my attention back to the present moment.
Yes.
I find living in a modern world, having your own business, doing your PhD on the side, you have so much going on. I have so much going on for myself.
Absolutely.
I find it really hard to just clear my mind and just meditate. There's so many hacks. They say, okay, you need to visualize being in the present moment, being in here and there. And my mind is just everywhere. There's so much going on. And I think you saw just before this podcast, I was like texting, calling, trying to get things done.
You were doing about 5 things at once.
Exactly, right?
And I was impressed.
Yeah, your evidence for that. I'm always doing so much. But I still love to meditate. There's something in me. I was like, I have to meditate every single day. I have to stay grounded. And how I do it quite quickly is using music. I just get music, no lyrical music, just something relaxing, something calm. Because they say when you've got lyrics, it distracts your mind. You want to go for music that kind of moves you. So with no lyrics, that doesn't elicit any specific emotion or feeling.
Yeah.
But instead, I kind of just focus on that one beat that's going on. So one day I'll focus on maybe the drum, or the next day I might just focus on the piano, the keys of the piano. And that way I'm actually coming back here in the here right now. So, and it's worked for me, and it really helps me go into that peaceful mode, because I kind of use the 3-step process. So I go 3, 2, 1. So 3 is when I start the music, and then I only keep I've actually cut my music piece to about 5 minutes. So because after 5 minutes of just focusing on that particular tool, so the drum, for example, so after 5 minutes, my music will go slower, quieter, until it is silence. And that's how I do it. And I do this at about 5:30 in the morning before I wake up every single day. And it's been a game changer for me personally. So,
well, I love that you only need a certain number of minutes, because by the end, you're actually very focused and you can sense the deep silence that underlies all sound. Another topic about sound is laughter.
Yeah,
so,
like laughing yoga.
Well, yes, there is laughing yoga. I did one class in that. But another thing about laughter is 39 years ago, I had a meditation that really changed my life because it opened me up to an experience I had never felt. I felt so much well-being and expansion inside my body. And what happened was, after that exercise ended, I began laughing. But the laughter was so strong. You know how when you're laughing so hard, you're crying? This was 10 times stronger than that. I was laughing, and I felt all this energy moving through my body, and I had never felt energy like that. So at the end of it, I was a little stunned, and for the next 6 months after that, these laughing episodes would just come up unexpectedly. And one day, someone came up to me at the meditation center I was going to and said, "Were you serious as a child?" And that's when I knew it. I knew that somehow there's an intelligence that knew what I needed, because my childhood was extremely serious. There wasn't much humor in my family, and one of my family members would sequester me off and tell me their problems. So I needed the openness of the laughter. And this went on for about 6 months, and now people do experience me as more balanced. I'm not just serious. I can be funny, I can fool around, I can laugh a lot. So laughter is also so powerful.
It looks like you've been that disruption in your family, like that change making. You know, like that you've got that generational trauma and personality your family has, and you've been that person that you're the change maker. That's powerful. Love that. And it was your own experience that it came from as well.
Yeah, what's so wondrous about it is I didn't know I needed that. But as soon as I started opening up more within me, that started happening.
That's so lovely.
It really is.
Really amazing. And you also mentioned that you're a coach. So are you a coach and you apply all of this sound healing into your coaching, or are these two distinct components of what you do?
I can answer that in 2 ways, because I'm also a retreat leader. I've led 175 retreats since 2000. And sometimes I do a retreat specifically on sound. Then we can dive deep and we can explore all kinds of sound healing, and people in the group that attend can talk about their experience and discover more about the kind of sound that they need to work with. But as far as with my coaching clients, I really don't experience that any two people are the same field of play, because each of us is unique. So if someone responds, like you, responds to sound, I'll go deep with the sound with them. If they don't respond to sound, it's really not something that's supporting them to heal and to open up. I don't use it.
When's your next retreat?
Actually, it's at the end of December.
That's very soon.
Yeah.
Where's that happening?
Yeah. That's a local one. I've done retreats in Mexico and Bermuda and different places in the U.S., and this one is near where I live. A lot of times I start working with a small group on retreat, and then that group becomes very close and trusting. We can do deeper work. So this is one of my ongoing groups that's been meeting actually for almost 7 years together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Long-term relationships for their newfound love of music and sound. Powerful.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I had a really delightful conversation with you, learning more about sound and healing. And I definitely think it's going to serve a lot of people, and it's going to ignite that spark of curiosity when it comes to sound healing. And I really hope more people are appealed by it, because it's so powerful. And yes, it has become quite trendy, but are people truly actually, even though they know about it, are they actually engaging with it? And I hope that people will engage with it more. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nurbanu. This has been such fun. You chose the topic I'm most passionate about. And so that was fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining me.